I'd like to call the August 20th, 2019 regular school board meeting of Independent School District 622 to order. First, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, next we have the approval of the agenda. I need a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Livingston. Second by Navy. All in favor say aye. Aye. And all opposed say nay. Okay, we have an approved agenda. Then we have public comment. Kim, do we have any? Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of routine items that are acted on in a single motion. Board members have the option of pulling items off the consent agenda if they wish to discuss them individually. This evening's consent agenda includes minutes of the July 23rd business meeting, minutes of the July 23rd closed session, minutes of the August 6th work session, routine personnel, and disbursements. So are there any items that anyone would like removed for discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'm looking for a motion and a second for approval.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Livingston,
Second.
second by Anderson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed say nay. So we have an approved consent agenda. Let me see. Okay, next section is reports. And first we have Superintendent Christine Tucci-Osorio.
All right, good evening, Chair Yenner, members of the board. I'm very pleased tonight begin with my first item. Tonight I'd actually like to recognize a member of our cabinet. Tonight we're honoring, for just a moment, our Director of Community Education, Terry Johnson. And I'd like to call Terry up here to stand next to me if you could for a moment. You may have heard that Terry Johnson is going to be retiring this fall. And I just wanted to take just a few moments to recognize Terry. You may remember that Terry joined the 622 team 5 years ago. I started with this team 4 years ago, so she has one more year on me with District 622. But I wanted to share just a couple of things with you about things I've learned from Terry myself during her tenure with us. She's going to be retiring after a long career in community education, not just with 622, but in the metro area. And there's some things about her that are pretty amazing and special, and I thought I would take a moment to share some of those with you. You may not be aware that replacing her is not easy. We've spent much of our afternoon today in interviews. We have more tomorrow. Our 622 education, community education program is very large, very expansive. In many districts, our programming, parts of our programming is often split off into different areas. So what we offer under the umbrella of community education is very comprehensive. The adult education programming, the adult basic education, EL classes, ECFE classes, in addition to senior citizen programming, the community education programming for adults, the Meals on Wheels programming, the early childhood programming, the out-of-school time for students and school-age care. We have, driver's education. We have such an expansive kind of programming available under our Community Edge. The aquatics programming, facilities rental, many, many programs under her care and under her watch. And so when we're looking for candidates to even interview for this job, it's rare to find people who've done all these things, because many don't come from a system, even if they come from a district our size, who've actually done all of these programs, because not many fall under an umbrella so large. So I want to remind you that when Terry came on board to District 622, the community education budget was in pretty dire straits. So she's done an amazing job partnering with Randy, who arrived at the same time. I know they're quite fans of each other, because apparently they arrived the same year before I was here, and worked together to really align finances, and have done an amazing job pulling out of a deep hole, which was phenomenal. Her equity lens is like none other I've ever seen. Everything that Terry has done, her leadership, is entirely focused on the needs of our community. We have dramatically changing demographics, and she's incredibly thoughtful in the way that she organizes programming. If there's a need in the community, she figures out a way to organize it, fund it, and make it happen. I'll give you an example. Across the metro and across the state, ECFE, Early Childhood Family Education, as much as we would like it not to be so, it's often a program that is, the people taking part in it are often middle-class white families. Unfortunately, that's what often ends up happening. Terry saw that pattern and decided to try something innovative. And in our district, she has coupled it with adult ESL classes. So families who are learning English also get to do ECFE classes at the same time. Very innovative thinking, but a way to reach a different demographic with a kind of programming. That doesn't happen everywhere in community education. She's got a mind for how do we make this different. Community education offers a lot of aquatics programming across the metro. She saw a need among many of our Somali families. We're looking for an opportunity to separate male and female swimming opportunities, because families culturally wanted to be able to swim separately, females from males. So she started family swim night on Friday nights, and our programming offers girls swim night. And so a lot of our Somali women and girls swim on Friday nights in our pools, and that's become very popular. And so really looking for ways to be culturally sensitive in the programmings that we offer, and really stepping out of the traditional mindset of what you do in community education, and how do you morph, change, evolve with the needs of the community. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts Terry has brought to our program. It's ever evolving. They have an amazing bus that's going to be wrapped and decorated, and there's going to be a bus coming about town that's going to offer services soon. There's just a mindset, not only among Terry, but her whole team, that has brought innovation and new thinking to our department. And she's got some big shoes to fill, so we're very excited. And I will tell you this, she's a master of budgeting. We just had a lot of interview questions about braiding and blending budgets, and who are the masters around the area who can do that well, because Terry is definitely one of them. And so I just wanted to give Terry a moment of grace, gratefulness and thank yous. We've got a certificate for you, Terry, signed by the board. We are so grateful for the incredible leadership. She's definitely not only been a leader of our community education department, but she's been a true member of our cabinet. I tell everybody that in our district, our community education director is a member of our cabinet, not a separate silo. It's integrated into our strategic plan. Terry's done a phenomenal job of thinking about it that way. And I will tell you this, all of our cabinet members lean on Terry, not just for community education issues, but for her thoughtful partnership as a co-leader of our bigger team. She's our expert thought partner when we need to think things through. She has an amazing lens for thinking through political tales, for decision making, for how to wordsmith and edit things to make sure that we're mindful about the thoughtful ways people might interpret things. We all see the different talents and skills that our team members bring to our cabinet, and she'll be deeply missed on our cabinet team. So I wanted to take a moment to highlight those things, and I'm actually going to ask Terry to share a few words as well. So with that, I'd like to present you with this certificate, and thank you for blessing all of us with your time and energy. I've learned so much working with Terry.
Well, thank you so much for those kind words, Christine. I have to give so much credit to the community education team because truly without all of their passion and dedication, creativity, none of those good things would have happened. And so, so much of the credit is truly theirs, but thank you. I also want to thank this group, really the people, the leaders in this district. I tell everyone I know what an amazing district 622 is, and I think for me, a big reason why is the leadership. It's truly such a pleasure to partner and to not feel like a separate silo, but to be welcomed, to partner well across community education and the rest of the district. I find this, our superintendent, our cabinet, school board, principals, all of the leadership to be so collaborative and supportive. It's just been an amazing journey and truly a pleasure to be here these last 5 years. So thank you for the opportunity.
And just so you know, Terry's not done today. She's not leaving today, but she is going to be, she's going to be with us actually into the early fall, but we wanted to catch her right now while we still have her attention fully, and she's very actively running her department. Before we bring in and start having someone else kind of co-leading and gradually weaving her out. So we're gonna make sure that we had her here while we had her full attention and she's not scheduling other things on her calendar. So we're just glad that you're here tonight. Thank you for that. All right, I'm going to take a couple of minutes now and jump into a facilities update. You had the opportunity this evening to tour Richardson Elementary School. As you know, Castle and Richardson are deep underway with, oops, let me pull this out so I can click. Deep underway with construction right now. Castle and Richardson, as I mentioned before, are both slated for completion at the end of December of this year. That said, we are going to have students in the door the first week of September when school begins. Castle Elementary, I will tell you, you had the opportunity to tour Richardson this evening. Castle is further along than Richardson, I will say. Castle actually just got all their furniture put into their classrooms, so you haven't had the chance to walk through Castle yet, but Castle just got all their furniture unloaded and their classrooms are getting set up and they're looking pretty great. You can see some of the pictures here of the classroom setups and the bathrooms and the bus loop and things, how they're looking over there at Castle. We're feeling really good about where things are at there, spending a lot of time in communication with Castle and the community there. Richardson is also underway. Our board members had the chance to tour Richardson. I will tell you, the rainy summer we've had has been challenging for us with Richardson. We have had a lot of conversations about how to make sure we get this doors opened on time and constituency plans and all of that. You had the opportunity to take a look at some of those pathways going in, the bus loop, the sidewalks and the outsides going in. You saw today some of the classrooms now have carpet in them and paint in them. Believe you me, we have a lot of countdowns going down because we've obviously just got a couple weeks till school starts. Thankfully, we have staff on site, construction crews on site 7 days a week. And there's a whole map out on the trailer walls of every single thing that has to get done every single day until then. We've got a lot of plans in place because Richardson obviously is going to cut down to the wire as far as when it is opening. And we have plans in place to support our staff for professional development week ahead of that day, ahead of students coming in. I think we've sent a message to you that we are going to be doing open house plans for Castle and Richardson off-site at a local park, and I'll have to get all the details of that for you so that we can actually allow the teachers a little bit more time to get their classrooms ready, and then we'll have a second meet and greet with parents in the classrooms. But we'll make sure that kids all get to meet their classroom teachers and all of that meet and greet gets to happen. So we're doing a little alternate plan for our normal welcome back day. Our teachers have been amazingly flexible. Lots of communication from our principals going out to our teachers to get ready for Castle and Richardson. There's a lot of excitement in the air, knowing that once all of this dust clears, that there's going to be these beautiful spaces available once they finally open up. And every day is like a breath of fresh air when we walk in and there's another big layer done. So I think Castle was a huge sigh of relief today when we actually saw the furniture in the classroom. So we went, wow, it's actually happening. So very soon we'll send you some pictures once we see these pictures going up for, or the dates going up for Richardson Next week is our opening welcome back week for the entire district at Woodland Hills on Tuesday. And we plan to have a video walkthrough of Castle and Richardson on the big screen for the entire district to see those two that morning on Tuesday morning. So I do encourage all board members to pop in and watch the opening welcome back, because we're going to actually have the welcome back video and photo tour of the schools that morning as well. So that'll be really exciting. Even if we have to get the video tour of Richardson that morning, we'll have it up there on the big screen. Oh, wrong button. It will be there. Just a reminder again that Carver Elementary and John Glenn are still in the design phase, and they are really moving forward pretty quickly. We're very excited about getting those two sites on board and moving forward with the design phase. We are going to have a lot more pictures and photos to be showing you very near future on both of those as they get closer and closer. Couple other things to know about. Communications is underway for all these sites. And you'll hear a lot about this at our Welcome Back Week for the entire district plan next Tuesday, about all the different places that staff are going to be involved. We want to make sure, especially that our staff that are in the sites that are going to be displaced or closed in the future, for example, Oakdale Elementary, Webster Elementary, Skyview Elementary, that they are especially at the table to help design the 2 new buildings that are going to be built from scratch, because we want those sites to have a lot of voices, especially of the teachers that are going to be most displaced, so that they can have a voice in designing the new buildings. So we're going to be putting together that whole timetable that's going to be shared coming up as well next week. We're going to have, obviously, these are the same completion timelines that you've seen before. I wanted to add in, too, that per our conversations earlier this summer, we do have a second architectural firm on board with us now. Wold Architects is going to be working with us as well, side by side with LHB, to help us in the design and development of the 2 new elementary schools, and with Skyview Middle School as well. So we're going to continue that process moving forward. So lots of design is coming forward in the fall. But the Carver and John Glenn, which is being designed by LHB, is going to be going out to bid this fall and winter. So those are going to be coming to you very soon with a lot of really cool pictures and even videos, I'm told. I just heard from Troy Miller, LHB. I think he's here, or he was here. We're actually going to have a YouTube video pretty soon of what the interiors of those are going to look like that we're going to be sharing with you very soon. So those are going to be pretty neat to look at. So just want to keep those timelines front and center. And just tell you that be ready for next Tuesday, because we're going to have a lot of videos ready to go. And then once those are done, when we do the walkthrough at Woodland Hills, we will have them all posted on the website as well for the broad public. I want to keep reminding everybody that this website that we have posted, Mari Drake in our communications office has been taking photos every week and posting them as well. So people, the broad community, can continue to look at updates of the photo and the process with the development there. So stay tuned. We have much happening on a daily basis right now with each of these sites. So, comments, questions?
Teresa?
Christine, I just wanted to mention we're not alone in the delay of construction. The beloved Bark Park in Oakdale that was slated to open by the end of July is behind by 3 weeks because of the very same thing. So I really think our community will understand. It's been a wet spring, so I think they're all going to be pretty tolerant of what you're going through.
You know, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Our priority is getting students in the door, irregardless. We have a lot of families for whom staying home with students is really an inconvenience. We got a lot of families for whom taking vacation days from work is just really not something they can do. So we want to make sure that our students get to school and come to school. So we're making it a top priority. If we have to do some additional supports for teachers to get classrooms set up, if some delays get in the way of teachers getting their work set up, we're going to do complete wraparound supports for our teachers to help them get their rooms set up in some creative ways ahead of time. And we're so grateful that we have Jenna Peters on deck with us to be a champion of all of the teachers' needs and the communications around that as well. That's been just amazing. Yes.
So with any delay in construction, with students coming in, will we have some assurance from the construction folks that a lot of the safe school initiatives will be in place and operational when we open those doors? for
They
students
have
in a
to
couple
be.
weeks?
We absolutely have to meet certain safety codes in order to have students in the building. And to be perfectly honest, if for any reason a code is not met, we can't have students in the building. And we certainly don't want to have to go to any backup plans, but if we did, we would. And backup plans would mean we have to take students to alternate locations. We absolutely don't want to have to go to that last resort, but if we did, we would have to. And we've certainly got some sketches and plans in place for that if we would need to go that way. But by law, by code, you can't have students in a place that's not meeting safety building requirements. So without a doubt, and I'm glad you asked the question, without a doubt, we would have to have certain codes have to be met, certain safety codes have to be met, and building inspectors would have to have things in place before we allow students in the building. So absolutely, and thank you for asking the question.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about it until the question came up about where the fire exits were going to be in Richardson. And if the sprinklers and everything are not installed on day
Right.
one, what kind of alternative plans there are
Yep.
to meet those
Yep.
code requirements. And I think that those are some of the questions that the public's going to want to have some assurance that, we've given some forethought to
Yeah.
any of
And,
those issues.
and there's very strict code requirements when you're talking about school-age children. And so by law, there's no way we would have kids in a building that don't meet code requirements. So in the event that anything were to happen where there's not a code requirement met or in place, we would obviously have to make an alternate plan for students to be somewhere else that day, which of course we would do. We're hoping not to have to do that by all means, but I will tell you, obviously we're making some plans in case something were to happen, but it's absolutely not our hope to have to do any of that.
And then just one more thing, public access to the building will be restricted and monitored in a way that will keep the students safe starting on day one also.
Absolutely, for school safety reasons, absolutely, because right now, you're right, because we have all these great safety measures in place with card access and badges and all that, but you're right, when you've got open construction zones, you have to have bodies and people watching where you don't yet have cameras in place and all those things.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you for bringing that up. Very, very practical. And especially in this modern day and age, parents are absolutely thinking of those things right now. Great questions.
Kristen, you said the open house for the schools is coming up, but that's the back-to-school open house. We'll also have one for the buildings, but it won't be till December, right?
No, they'll have another meet and greet so parents can come and see the classrooms as soon as, very shortly after. I'll have to check with the principals on what date's been set yet. Part of it depends on when the carpet and all the woodworking is done and everything, but we'll have definitely something right as soon as school begins that we can let parents come in and see the classrooms too, so once we get things going.
But they're not complete until December.
The building's not complete until December, but classrooms will be. I mean, there'll be elements of the building that are still being worked on outside and grounds and things like that, but absolutely, we'll get parents in to see the classrooms very quickly after school starts.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine.
on next, but I gotta go sit down.
You're on next, policies.
is it telling me, excuse me? Yeah.
Yep. So this is our first formal reading of the policies from our August 6th work session. There were revisions suggested, reviewed by the Cabinet Legal Counsel and incorporated into the policies. So it looks like the revisions to the original proposals are indicated in blue. After this evening's discussion, any recommendations will be reviewed by legal counsel and policies will be reviewed as necessary. We'll have a second formal reading and propose action at the September 24th business meeting. So Christine, do you want to walk
Yep.
us through those?
Absolutely. I know this is a bit of a mouthful, so what I'm going to do is actually just read right through the list of policies. And as a reminder, this is our first formal reading that was shared with you at our August 6th work session. So these are the policies that we went through at our August 6th session, and the revisions that were shared by you all at our session have been reviewed by Cabinet and Legal Counsel, and they've been incorporated here. So you'll see those written in blue on here. What I'm going to do is actually just kind of read through the title of the policy and the number and the name of the policy. I'm actually going to give you just a real quick description of what's been changed this year. It's a little bit lengthy. It's kind of a mouthful, but I do think it's important for people who may be watching this board meeting online or live to know at least what we're referencing here. Of course, all of this information is relevant, is accessible in board book. So I'm just going to read through this. It's a little bit of a mouthful, but I will kind of go through this laundry list of all of these. I want to remind everybody that a number of the things that are up for change this year, the reason that they're changed is because we actually changed our numbering system this year. So what would normally be a shorter list is a longer list this year because we changed the numbering system, which means all of a sudden a lot of things had to change. We realigned our policies this year to be numbered in accordance with the MSBA numbering system, which most of the state of Minnesota uses. And 622 for a long time had a different numbering system. And so that therefore has a whole bunch of policies that are now on the list to be changed because we renumbered them. So bear with me. It's a little bit of a long list, but I'm just going to read the number and the title and then what was changed. So I'm just going to read through that and hang with me for a little bit and we'll read them out loud. So I'm going to begin with those policies that we are proposing to rescind, mainly because there's some duplications or they're no longer needed because we already have some comparable policies. Policy number L060, we're proposing to rescind. It's called mismanagement of resources and inadequate asset protection. The reason for this is there's no MSBA comparable policy. It's an old TeamWorks model recommendation to rescind as policy deemed not necessary by our legal counsel and administration, and it's covered already in policy 705. Recommending to rescind L061, which is titled inadequate budget planning and management. Again, there's no MSBA comparable policy, and it's recommended to rescind as policy is deemed not necessary by our legal counsel and administration, and it is covered by our policy number 701. We're recommending to rescind L062. Title is unethical and professional financial processes. Again, no MSBA comparable policy. It's recommended by our legal counsel and administration to rescind because it's already covered in our policies 702 and 703. We're recommending to revise 103, complaints, students, employees, parents, and other persons, because this is an MSBA policy and it's an updated reference policy number. Again, we renumbered our policies. Revised 208, policy stewardship. It contains 622 language. It's an updated reference policy number. And we requested to have the section on annual review policies reformatted in a bulleted list. We're recommending to revise 209, Board Code of Conduct and Ethics. This contains 622 language, updated reference policy number, and sentence structure, revision in the opening paragraph, punctuation, edits, and change a couple of words in there. Revise 410, Family Medical Leave Act. This is an MSBA model policy. Again, our administration and legal counsel proposed revision of the dissemination of the policy, stating that the policy is available for viewing on the district website. Revise 413, Harassment and Violence. Contains 622 language. Administration and legal counsel proposed the revision of the policy, dissemination of policy, stating that the policy is available for viewing on the website. Additional language in gender identity was removed so that the harassment and gender inclusion policies had some consistent definition of gender identity. This revision was also advised by legal counsel as the additional information is not necessary. Revised 416, drug and alcohol testing, contains 622 language, update the name of our human resources director. Revised 421, gifts and solicitation by employees and school board members. This contains 622 language, updated reference policy and numbers, and some removal of words in section 1 and 2. Revised policy 503, student attendance. It contains 622 language, updated reference policy number. Additions of the word guardians in sections 2 and 3, and you might see this throughout a number of them. There's some places where we wrote parents. It was written in policy, and we had a request from one of our board members to include parents and guardians. We know that a lot of our families, students don't live with a parent. They may live with a guardian who's not actually their parent. Some change in wording. Revised 505, distribution of non-school sponsored materials, contains 622 language and updated reference policy number per those policy number changes. Revised 521, student disability non-discrimination. MSBA policy, update the policy with the new name of our Director of Student Services. She had a change in last name due to marriage, and some language change as well. Revised 522, student sex non-discrimination, Title IX. Again, change in last name with our Director of Student Services. Because she specifically needs to be named and her last name changed, we needed to change that in the policy. Revised 524, internet acceptable use, contains 622 language, updated reference policy numbers. Revised 529, staff notification of violent behavior by students, MSBA model policy, updated reference policy, and then some grammatical and language changes as well. Revised 714, fund balance, again, MSBA model policy. And then we also had a board recommendation to raise the minimum unassigned general fund balance per our business director's recommendation to 8 to 10%. And then some language change to non-spendable paragraph as well. That was a language choice in there, in the definitions. Adopt 535, which is a new policy, a gender inclusion policy. And that is a 622 new policy that's also been reviewed by our legal counselors, legal counsel, our administration, and our LGBTQ staff affinity group as well. We also have here a revision of 205, open meetings and closed meetings, contains 622 language, legal reference additions, executive replaced with board retreat, and then also some language changes, some duplicative notices as well removed in there, and a request to expand on the notice of emergency meeting options as well, some grammatical corrections as well. Revised policy to 402, disability non-discrimination, MSBA policy and a legal reference addition. Revised 419, tobacco-free environment, MSBA policy title change to tobacco-free environment, possession and use of tobacco, to include tobacco-related devices, including electronic delivery devices, which is a statutory change, including electronic devices. Revise of 423, employee-student relationships. This contains 622 language, a legal reference revision, and updated reference policy number. Revised 506, student discipline, contains 622 language. It's a cross-reference addition and also a revision to reference tobacco policy due to that proposed revision of that policy's name as well. Revised policy 532, use of peace officers in crisis teams to remove students with IEPs from school grounds. This is an MSBA model policy. There's also a statutory change to dates of seclusion reports to MDE, and also some grammatical changes. Revised 603, curriculum development. It's an MSBA policy statutory change requiring information to students who do not meet or exceed Minnesota academic standards, a legal reference addition, and then a school board member added to the advisory committee membership. Revised policy 616, school district system accountability, contains 622 language. Statutory change adds items to school performance report, renaming of curricular improvement cycle. Revised 618, assessment of student achievement. MSBA policy, statutory changes required the MDE commissioner to create a form regarding state assessments. And then a legal reference addition and some grammatical changes as well. Revised 624, online learning options. MSBA policy, statutory change as weighted grade provision, and addition of guardian, again, where we only had reference before parent. This includes parent and guardian. So with that, my recommendations will be that we move forward after tonight's reading to have a second formal reading and propose action at the September 24th business meeting.
Okay, thank you, Christine. So again, August 6th work session, we reviewed these, and this is our first formal reading. So does anybody have any questions, comments?
I just really want to thank all the staff and cabinet that were involved in this, but I want to make two comments. First is about policy 419, which is that tobacco-free environment. I just wanted to share that in medicine, we have been hammered this entire month with weekly updates from the Department of Health regarding the emphasis on teenage vaping and teenage tobacco products. So my question to you, Christine, and I'm not sure if you can answer it, is since it seems to be nearing academic stages in which we have a crisis almost of young students getting ill, how will we share how to recognize some of those things with our staff? And again, you might not be prepared. It
No, it's
doesn't
okay.
impact the policy, but I just thought the timing was rather relevant.
It is really a urgent crisis. I will completely agree with you on that. We have been doing more training and professional development with our teachers to recognize the signs and the materials and what kinds of devices are being used. The challenge with vaping is that it's hard to detect it. You know, sometimes people don't smell it, you can't see it. And I will tell you, one of the big issues we've had is some of those increases in dismissals and suspensions when we're so trying to reduce them is they've gone up because of all the vaping that's been happening. And so one of the other issues we're trying to figure out is how do we tackle this challenge and also keep students in school as well, right? Because the vaping's gone up, the e-devices have gone up, and yet we also want to keep students in school. And so it's just become quite a challenge. I will say we're networking across districts around the metro to try to figure out and tackle this together. I don't know of anyone who's got any great solutions just yet, but I'll say one thing. We have to get better at identifying it and figuring out what to do, but we also have to figure out how do we figure out some policies where kids actually stay in school too, because suspensions can't just be our answer either, because we'll suspend kids like crazy right now because it is such an epidemic proportions right now. So that's I would say one of our greatest challenges in the coming year and of our past year. And we really have to figure that out as a medical situation, as an educational situation, a societal situation. It is absolutely as extremely urgent as you just described. It absolutely is. So.
Okay. And the other comment I wanted to make was about policy 535, gender inclusion. And
Yep.
well, I think for me, this is personally a very proud moment that this has finally come to our plate. I think that it really shows the strength of our board and of our cabinet in a time when it's not particularly friendly in the public for these particular folks, and fingers can be pointed. I think that for us to stand behind our students is a great thing, and I anticipate we could get some backlash from this. And I just feel that I'm really proud that we're doing this work and taking baby steps to getting support for our students.
And I appreciate you saying that. I'll tell you something. Having spent a lot of time in the last week and a half, as my cabinet knows, navigating this homeless situation, I've got a kiddo in my house right now that I've been trying to navigate. Our homeless shelters are full of a lot of LGBTQ, gender nonconforming students. Full. There's a high suicide rate, very, very at-risk youth, and anything we can do to just show some protections and safety nets, at least for some of our most at-risk kiddos. And you know, our gender inclusion policy, if you really read it closely, is just about making sure it's not even about sexual orientation, whether you're gay or straight. It's about the gender nonconforming kids having a safe bathroom option to go to. If they want to go to the nurse's office to use the bathroom, we're going to let them do that, right? We don't have a gender-neutral bathroom in all of our settings, but we're going to make sure somebody has an opportunity to go use a safe space if they need one, right? We're going to make sure kids are listened to and have opportunities to be in safe environments if we need to. We're going to be respectful of kids and their identities, especially if they're a gender nonconforming student. So it is a big step. It's a bold step. And of course, one of our number one priorities is always to work with students and their families. And I'll be honest, I think we do a really good job of that. As I told you in our work session, I have yet, since my time here in this district, to get a phone call from a student or a family to say we haven't worked out a good plan for a student. We've done, I think, a pretty good job. Never perfect, and there's probably a lot of folks who haven't called because they haven't had the right plan. It doesn't mean just because they haven't called me that it hasn't been perfect. But, you know, I will say in my previous job, in my previous life, I got more of those calls. Our staff and our leaders in this district are really trying to step up and wrap around support plans around anybody who comes forward, and they're usually pretty creative. And you know, what's the best solution for this kid and this family, and what do we need to do to support? It's about making sure people aren't bullied, make sure people are listened to, make sure people are supported, and make sure people are safe. That's what we need to have happening here and respected. And so I'm very proud of the work we're doing, and I'm really proud of this board for being willing to state that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to underscore that a little bit. You know, there's two ways to look at the issues from the board's point of view. One is being able to provide the physical support that our students need in terms of bathroom choice and things like that. But starting all the way back with two mommy, two daddy curriculums and our first attempts at safe schools, I think it's always been the board's philosophy that the children and the various communities within our school district have the right to feel safe and included. And I think that it's a long time to change that culture so people, you know, it's one thing to say it, kind of give it lip service. It's another thing for people who are affected by it every minute of their lives to actually feel that. And I think that we're in the process of seeing some real progress in that with our staff and with the work that we're doing. You know, I think modeling it at the leadership level, at the cabinet level, and the board level is one thing, but getting the rank and file line staff
Right.
to believe that children have the right to feel safe and included in school regardless of the diversity of their backgrounds is really significant. And I think
Yeah.
that's what I take pride in. I think we've come a long ways in that.
It's pretty incredible, and if I could piggyback on what you just said, Steve, coming into this district as I did now 4 years ago, I was pretty impressed that this is a district that adopted the Welcoming Schools curriculum and all of that. But you know, as many of you this year had the opportunity to join our LGBTQ staff affinity group last year, one of the things we're doing a training this year with Outfront Minnesota. The goal is really just to build some fluency in language, really some understanding, about what is gender identity versus sexual orientation, and what does the language mean, and what does it mean for our students and families, How do we just make sure everyone who sets foot in our school district feels welcomed and like they belong, and we're here for all of our students and all of our families. And so it's a proud moment. I'm very proud of our school board, and I feel like our school board's been quite strong in your leadership, and it's just been a big source of pride for me in working with the school board. So.
I'd like to echo what some of the board members have said about wanting our students to feel safe and supported and included, and making sure that they don't get bullied or harassed. I just had a question for the policy on page 535 of board book. It's page 44, I'm sorry. Section A in the paragraph where, like halfway through, it says, with respect to all restrooms, locker rooms, or changing facilities, transgender or gender nonconforming students will have access to facilities that correspond to their gender identity after they go through the meeting with the approved licensed school counselor. So with that policy, would students who are gender nonconforming, would they be able to use restrooms of the opposite sex?
Their gender identity.
Yeah.
So somebody who identifies as, who maybe was born a female but identifies as a male, they could be allowed to use a restroom assigned to their gender identity, how they identify, as long as it's consists of a meeting with and approved by a licensed school counselor who's knowledgeable about gender dysphoria and properly determined with that, with coordination with a healthcare official and all of these extra steps in place. Yes.
Okay. And in our locker rooms and our changing rooms, do we have privacy curtains, privacy barriers?
We do have opportunities for people to change in private in our locker rooms. Yes.
Okay.
We have a lot of students, whether they're gender nonconforming or not, who prefer to change in a private opportunity, and all of our students are offered an opportunity to change in private.
Okay.
So, yes. And to be perfectly honest, most students who are gender nonconforming choose to change in a totally separate private place as well. I mean, that's been our experience most of the time anyway. It's usually what happens. A lot of times, and that's part of what the construction projects talk about, is having locker rooms that are just all unisex. Like there's just these doors that go floor to ceiling, and every single person gets it. You can pick any one of them. They're all unisex. So in an open hallway, anybody could go into any one of those, and there's a floor-to-ceiling door, and they could be used by anyone. They're unisex, right? If you think about in your house, you have a unisex bathroom, right? So males and females take turns using it, right? And so in modern school designs, you just build unisex facilities, and then you don't really have to worry about it. So that's kind of the wave of the future anyway in building design and construction. So as we get to remodeling projects, that'll all get a little easier as we start to do that.
Okay. So all the remodeling that we're doing, and then with the new schools too, they should have
Right
gender
now, even
neutral-
Castle and Richardson, which are our first projects, they do still have male and female bathrooms, but next to each one, they have unisex stalls in the main hallway. Next to every bathroom, there's unisex stalls. So anybody can use them. It doesn't have to be a gender nonconforming person. It could just be somebody who wants to use a private bathroom, you know.
Okay.
And staff, most of our staff around here use a unisex bathroom. If you think about the bathroom by my office and Kim's office, that's just a unisex bathroom. People use it. It's just a one-stall door. And so more and more schools and office buildings and all over the place are installing unisex bathrooms just to kind of take away the whole issue.
Okay.
And that's where we're going.
Okay.
Okay, you know, I did want to make a comment about the vaping, before it moved on, but the policy is great, but, and I know we don't need to discuss this now because it's not a conversation just about vaping, but maybe in the future we could. I'm worried about the kids vaping. So having a policy is one thing, but the percent of kids who are vaping is problematic. So I'm wondering if there's something the schools can do to develop a culture where maybe there's peer pressure to discourage vaping. I don't know if there's some program out there that we could integrate into our schools, because I think it's a very big problem.
It's a huge problem. And there's actually I think there's a lot of emerging grant opportunities and health programs and public health programs that are willing to come into schools and help with that, without a doubt. The vaping is an issue. It's illegal to be vaping in schools. So the policy is obviously, it's a no-brainer to have the policy. But we also have to really tackle it from a peer pressure, a social awareness campaign. You know, like if you think about all the anti-smoking campaigns that happened some time ago in the world, I mean, in Minnesota for sure, and the effect they eventually had. We have to do that as a public health awareness thing. But it is really a serious, serious epidemic that's emerging, and it's going to have to be tackled on so many different levels. And everyone's trying to get their ideas around on the table right now for it. So,
All right, any other questions or comments about the policies? Thank you for reading through those, Christine, and highlighting the changes. So again, we'll read those for our second formal reading, September 24th, before we vote on them. So next on our agenda is the superintendent evaluation. So July 23rd, we had a closed session to evaluate the superintendent, and I am going to read our summary from that meeting. On July 23rd, 2019, board members met in a closed session for the purpose of evaluating the superintendent. Superintendent Tucci Osorio was rated on the performance of her 4 goals. Number 1, engage staff and community to continue 622 facilities planning. Number 2, increase learner outcomes through implementation of 622 strategic plan. Number 3, share our 622 story among local, state, and national peers while strengthening our learning network. And 4, continue a doctoral studies program along with the integration application of this new learning in the daily role of superintendent for District 622. With an average rating 9 on a 10-point scale, Christine Tucci Osorio ranked outstanding as superintendent of the North St. Paul Maplewood Oakdale School District. We wish to thank Superintendent Tucci Osorio for her diligent work in passing a successful referendum for our district. She spent countless hours meeting with staff, parents, and community members to share the purpose of our much-needed facilities upgrades. Her continuing work to improve systems to support all learners has been remarkable, with incredible strides made involving student voice. Throughout the year, Superintendent Tucci Osorio has advocated for our schools at numerous state events and spread the good work of School District 622 by presenting at state and national conferences. We look forward to her continued leadership, passion, and vision as she begins her 5th year as a superintendent of schools. Thank you, Christine. Anybody have comments or additions?
Well, I just want to thank you. I know it was a busy year for you, both personally and professionally. I can't tell you enough how the bond is such an exciting time, and all the work that you did to get that to happen. And you're just the energizer bunny. You still have that sparkle, and I appreciate the year you just gave us. So thank you.
All right, thanks again, Christine. It was a great year. We're looking forward to our next year.
Thanks for being a great board. I brag about you everywhere I go. Great.
Okay. Next, we have action items from the business office, acknowledgement of contributions, and Becky Navy.
Minnesota Statute 123B.02 permits school boards to receive for the benefit of the district requests, donations, or gifts for any proper purpose and apply the same to the purpose designated. On that behalf, the board may act as trustee of any trust created for the benefit of the district and for the benefit of pupils thereof. Therefore, the Director of Business Services recommends the following resolution. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 622 that the school board accept with appreciation the following contributions and permit their use as designated by the donors. Ronnie Dornfield, $77.62 for Meals on Wheels. Michael Testa, $50 Meals on Wheels. Kinney Family Foundation, $10,000 for Community Bridge. Cummins donated 9 buddy benches, 1 at Carver, Castle, 2 at Cowan, 1 at Oakdale, Richardson, Skyview, Webster, and Weaver. The Eagle Point Parent Group donated $38,828.15 to the Eagle Point field trips, activities, and classroom needs. Park Dental, $500 to the North Football Program. Kathy Richardson, school supplies to Weaver Elementary students. Diane Droger, school supplies to Weaver Elementary students. This brings the total fiscal year 2019-2020 monetary contributions to $50,163.77. And I would like to make a motion to accept with great appreciation these donations.
Okay, thank you, Becky. So we have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Nancy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed say nay. So we accept the contributions with our thanks. Some big donations there. Okay, next on the and thank you, Becky. Okay, next on the agenda we have the resolution providing for the sale of general obligation school building and facilities maintenance bonds series 2019A. Randy.
So we have 3 resolutions in front of you. 2 are for the sale of general obligation bonds, both voter-approved and long-term facilities. And then there's a third one for bond refunding of 2 issues. Again, the first resolution is for the voter-approved bonds. We're seeking to sell up to, not to exceed at this point in time, $200 million. And with the long-term facilities maintenance bonds, not to exceed $65 million. This is a little bit more than what we thought about selling initially, but since the market is so good right now, Ellers, our financial advisor, has basically encouraged us to go for more right now because bond prices are at record low interest rates. So it gives us the opportunity to kind of do what we need to do for phase 2 and then some planning money for phase 3. And with that, I would encourage you to support those two resolutions and the third.
Okay, thanks, Randy. Any questions about that one before I read the resolution? Okay. Let me see, is this beginning? Yeah. So resolution providing for the sale of general obligation school building and facility maintenance bonds, Series 2019A. And covenanting? Is the word covenanting? And obligating the district to be bound by and to use the provisions of Minnesota statutes, section 126C.55, to guarantee the payment of the principal and interest on these bonds. So be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 622, North St. Paul, Maplewood, Oakdale, Minnesota, as follows. Number 1, bond authorization. The school board has determined that it is necessary and expedient to issue general obligation school building and facilities maintenance bonds, Series 2019A, in the amount not to exceed 200. How much is it?
200 million.
It is? Okay. 200 million. 2, sale. The district has retained Ellers and Associates, Inc. in Roseville, Minnesota as its independent municipal advisor for the bonds. Ellers is authorized to solicit proposals in accordance with Minnesota statute section 475.60, subdivision 2-9. If the issuance of the bond is approved, the school board shall meet at the time and place specified in the official statement to receive and consider proposals for the purchase of the bonds. Number 3, official statement, negotiation of sale. Ellers is authorized to prepare and distribute an official statement and to be open, read, and tabulate the proposals for presentation to the board. So this is an excerpt of the resolution. The complete resolution is available for viewing on the District 622 website or in the business office. So with that, I need a motion and a second for approval. Okay, moved by Hunt, second by Anderson. All in favor say aye. Aye. And all opposed say nay. Okay, that motion is approved. And the second one, Randy?
That is a long-term facilities maintenance bond. So the first resolution is we're selling 200 million of our $275 million voter-approved bonds. We will actually, this resolution is actually setting the sale. The sale will actually occur in October, and we'll have a pre-sale for both of these issues, actually for all three of them, including the refunding bond in September. But the next bond is for long-term facilities maintenance bonds, selling $65 million in accordance with our 2- and 10-year plan. And again, with these two, sale of these two bonds, again, will be used for Phase 2 and the start of Phase 3 for our facilities plan.
Okay. I will read the resolution. Resolution stating the intention of the school board to issue general obligation bonds to finance projects included in the district's approved 10-year facility plan, covenanting and obligating the district to be bound by and to use the provisions of Minnesota statute section 126C.55 to guarantee the payment of the principal and interest on the bonds. Be resolved that by the School Board of Independent School District Number 622, State of Minnesota, as follows. Number 1. The board hereby finds and declares that it is necessary and expedient for Independent School District Number 622, the district, to issue its fully registered general obligation facilities maintenance bond, the bonds, pursuant to Minnesota statute section 123B.595, subdivision 5 in chapter 475, as amended, to fund the costs of the following projects and related financing costs. Deferred maintenance projects at various school sites and facilities as included in the district's 10-year facilities plan approved by the Commissioner of Education. The bonds will be issued in a total aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $65 million. The issuance of the bond is hereby authorized. The board, having been advised by Ellers and Associates, Inc., its independent municipal advisor, hereby determines that the bonds shall be privately sold after receipt of written proposals as authorized pursuant to Minnesota statute section 475.60, subdivision 2 as amended. the issuance of the bonds is approved, or if the issuance of the bond is approved, the board shall meet at the time and place specified in the official statement to receive and consider proposals for the purchase of the bonds. The terms and provisions specified in the official statement are hereby adopted as the terms and conditions of the bond and of the sale thereof, and shall be made available to all prospective purchasers of the bonds. Ehlers & Associates, Inc. is authorized to prepare an official statement and to open, read, and tabulate the proposals for presentations to the board. This is an excerpt of the resolution. The complete resolution is available for viewing on the District 62 website or in the business office. So again, I need a motion and a second for approval. Moved by Anderson. Second by OJ. All in favor say aye. Aye. And all opposed say nay. So that one also is approved, Randy? Okay, the third one. Let's see. Resolution, yes, let me see. Resolution providing for the sales of general obligation alternative facilities refunding bonds, Series 2019C. Should I just read it?
Yeah, the last two issues that we have for refunding, and this should save us about $750,000 over the remaining life of the bonds.
Okay. Resolution providing for the sale of general obligation alternative facilities refunding bonds, Series 2019C, and covenanting and obligating the district to be bound by and to use the provisions of Minnesota Statute Section 126C.55 to guarantee the payment of the principal and interest on these bonds. Be resolved by Minnesota School Board of Independent School District Number 622, North St. Paul, Maplewood, Oakdale, Minnesota as follows. Number 1, bond authorization. The school board has determined that it is necessary and expedient to issue $8,200,000 general obligation alternative facilities refunding bonds, Series 2019C. Number 2, sale. The district has retained Ehlers & Associates, Inc. in Roseville, Minnesota as its independent municipal advisor for the bonds. Ehlers is authorized to solicit proposals in accordance with Minnesota Statute Section 475.60, Subdivision 2-9. If the issuance of the bond is approved, the school board shall meet at the time and place specified in the official statement to receive and consider proposals for the purchase of the bonds. Number 3, official statement, negotiation of sale. Ehlers is authorized to prepare and distribute an official statement and to open, read, and tabulate the proposals for presentation to the board. Again, this is an excerpt of the resolution. The complete resolution is available for viewing on the District 62 website or in the business office. With that, I need a motion and a second for approval.
Second.
Moved by Hunt, second by Livingston. All in favor say aye. Aye. And all opposed say nay. So that is also approved. Thank you very much, Randy.
Can I
Yep.
make a quick comment?
Yes.
Can I just point out that the lucky stars are shining on District 622 right now, because it's just unbelievable that amidst this incredible large facilities bond referendum, we happen to hit like historically low interest rates of all time in the middle of all this, and to be selling these kind of bonds right now. We almost just can't believe that we're getting these kind of rates right now. It's just, I just get giddy thinking about it, because when you think about impact to homeowners, we couldn't be asking for better luck right now in this sale of these. So it's just, like to get a call from our financial advisors that says, wait guys, you better sell more today because this is such a good deal. Don't pass up this opportunity right now. We were going to sell less bonds today. He said, up them right now because this is such a good deal. I just want us to pause and appreciate how fortunate we are right now, because there are so many school districts across the state who fight hard and they try to pass these kinds of referendums. And when they finally go through, they're not in a year that we happen to be in. It's like all the stars are just lining up for us. We finally get something. The first time we pass a bond since 1994, and it happens to be in a year that has the most historically low rates ever. It's just amazing. I can't even believe it. So just had to pause and appreciate the amazing opportunity we have right now. So it's pretty great to be in this kind of a moment. So had to just relish.
Yeah, well, we hope they stay that way till when we sell them to children.
Exactly. I know. We hope they stay that way, but let's just keep them flowing in that direction right now. But it's still pretty great.
Yeah, okay. Thanks very much, you guys. Next, we have, what do we have? Human Resources, Julie Coffey.
So as you know, a few months ago, we approved a 10% overall increase in our insurance rates. And so as a district, we've been looking at what are some of the ways that we can really help contain insurance costs moving forward. And one of the ways that we can do that is through something called a dependent eligibility audit. So right now in the district, when somebody makes a change to their plan, maybe they add a child or drop a child or drop a spouse or add a spouse, we don't ask for verification to verify that that is a legitimate thing. Most companies and many districts do require verification. We do not. And so there's a question as to whether or not the individuals on our plan, particularly as dependents, should be on our plan. And if someone's on our plan that shouldn't be on our plan, are they having claims that are impacting our overall insurance cost? So we've looked at 3 companies who could come in, and there are companies out there who perform these types of audits. Many companies do this on a routine basis. We looked at 3 companies. We've selected Consova is the company to do this. I have experience with them in other employers. So they will come in and assist us in doing this benefit eligibility audit. But again, the main reason is to make sure that we're looking at controlling our insurance costs to the degree that we can. So tonight we're asking for approval. Although this isn't something that requires approval from a financial standpoint, the cost of the audit is not that expensive. But we want to be transparent with our employees about the process that we're about to go through and make sure that we've got the board's approval to do that. So tonight we're asking for approval of the dependent eligibility audit with Consova that will begin this fall.
I have to be upfront about this. I'm really uncomfortable with this because when you talk about insurance coverage, and any time you place a restriction or an observation or a review of that, it's designed to prevent people from using health insurance. And I just have to say I'm not in favor of this. Plus, I don't know if it's wise to spend $16,000 on something that the health plan should be taking care of anyway. I'm just not comfortable with this at all from my own personal perspective.
Thank you, Julie. I have some reservations as well, only in that, let's say you identify a child or a dependent that's not covered. I can't imagine what that parent will do to seek coverage. And I was just wondering if you had any experience in, do you help find coverage for that child? Or what, can you just kind of talk a little bit about what would happen if we have some ineligible students? I'm not sure students is the right term because it would be their children, or dependents, but I too am a little bit leery about a dependent who doesn't have health care coverage. So can you expand? Do you have any experience to share?
Right. So I certainly hear where you're coming from. And the intent is not to all of a sudden drop a bunch of kids from coverage and leave them out there with no medical insurance. The intent of this is to make sure that the dependents that are covered under our plan are actually legally authorized dependents, able to get insurance through us. And so if there is a dependent that is dropped, we would work with a family to look at where else in the marketplace they might be able to get coverage, and work with them to find appropriate care.
Okay. So just a clarifying question. So have you also had experience in what kind of people, meaning are they like overaged, or are they not legitimately their child, or
Yeah, so that would be, the health plan does really help us look at people who age out of insurance at age
Okay.
26.
Okay.
They usually catch that, but they do not, Health Partners does not verify that a dependent on the plan is truly a dependent, an eligible dependent under the plan. They don't, that's not a service that they provide. That's really up to the employer to do that. And so it could be a variety of situations. We really, part of the reason to outsource this to a third party is so we don't get involved in those types of decisions. It's Consova saying, working with them to figure out why they aren't eligible. We don't get into those details about why someone is or isn't eligible.
Okay.
And we frankly want to stay out of that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'll just add to it. I just got married, right? I just got married, added a husband, his 2 kids to my health plan. Never had to prove that their kids or his kids or, you know, I mean, it's just like, okay, add them on.
And how would you prove?
Well, you'd have to show some dependency that he's their parent, right? I mean, and I'm just saying, there's a lot of blended families, right? So there's a lot of people that get married and we have kids and you've got kids and we move in together and all of a sudden, let's put all of us on the same health insurance plan. And I'm not saying that a lot of people are gaming the system or doing anything like that, but I'm just saying, it's just, I asked the question, like, do I have to prove that we're actually dependents of anybody here, or do we just all just get to be on the health insurance plan, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, there's a lot of blended families like mine and elsewhere, so I just think that, you know, that kind of thing happens, and,
So you had to come up with birth certificates?
well, just to
and-
prove that these are your children, I guess.
Can I just, one quick follow? Don't we have an insurance committee? Have they approved this?
This is not something that would actually get approval through the insurance committee. We have talked to them on several occasions about this, but not something that they would need to approve.
Isn't that a good idea to have them look at it?
We have, like I said, we've talked to them about it. We've not, no one on that committee shared any concerns about it. They were in agreement that, yeah, we need to really be looking at where our costs come in and what is everything we can be doing in light of a 10% overall increase to
I
make
think
sure
a
that
lot
we're
of staff
keeping
have called
costs
in
down.
because they saw a big hit to their paychecks this year. The paychecks really went down this year when the insurance costs went up this year. And it hit July 1, and all of a sudden now everyone's going back to work, and all of a sudden the paychecks are like, whoa, this is a year that all of a sudden there's a real, oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah, it seems that you want to keep healthcare costs under control by ensuring that only eligible people are on the healthcare.
Correct.
That seems like a reasonable goal. At my workplace, we provide evidence. I've had 2 children while working there, and both times I provided a birth certificate when I had the kid to add them to my insurance, and it doesn't seem, to me, it doesn't seem like a huge ask that you verify that.
At my
Well,
last
on your
school
insurance.
district where I worked, when I had a child, I had to prove that I had a child and show a birth certificate. And I didn't when I came here.
Yeah, it was a very
I mean,
simple
and it was a
process.
public school district, and we had to do that. And coming here, it's like, whoa, we never did that in 622.
Yeah,
So-
and at the end of the day, it's not to penalize people who may not be eligible for insurance, but you're raising everybody else in the district's insurance costs by not playing by the rules, so.
Exactly.
I was just curious what the average annual cost is to the district for each person that's covered, whether it's staff member or their dependent. Do we know like a rough estimate of what that cost might be for us?
So the net paid medical claims per enrolled employee per month in 18-19 were $1,073.
Okay. And do you know how many staff and dependents use our insurance?
Yep. So we have 1,262 employees on the plan, and we have 2,830, what in our world we call belly buttons on the plan, but individual people.
You actually say that?
Okay.
We do, yep.
funny.
Yep.
Belly buttons.
Belly buttons on the plan.
Thank you.
Yep.
I was going to say that I was really surprised that we didn't do verification. I have never, ever been on any policy where I haven't had to show verification through marriage certificate, through birth certificates to be on a policy. So, I mean, honestly, I'm shocked that it hasn't been done here.
Yeah, I agree. It seems a little sloppy not to, actually, doesn't it?
I have one more thing, sorry. Would we, like, going forward, after this audit, is there conversations in place to start implementing that?
Yep, absolutely. So we're already putting that documentation together so that we can get it on our website and inform employees of what would be required then for a status change going forward.
Do you know if the different collective bargaining units are for this verification process, or if they're against it?
So our insurance committee is comprised of individuals from all of the different bargaining units, and again, we've discussed that with them. We didn't vote on it, we didn't ask for their approval, because we're not required to do that, but, again, we've had discussions with them.
Julie, our insurance runs January through December.
July through June.
So if this is going to just start, it's going to start in October and go through January to run the audit, is there, I'm just going to throw an idea out, if you find that there's some ineligible dependents, is there a way to try to keep them through June until, or notify them that, you know, you'll be off in June or something to that effect?
We
I mean,
pick it.
I'm just thinking of a child that doesn't have medical coverage.
Right. So as we set up the audit and the timelines, we will pick a date where coverage would be dropped, and we would communicate that to employees along the way. So it's about a 4-month process, so people will know up front, hey, I've got until this date to kind of figure this out, and it's generally enough time to, of course, we can always make exceptions to anything and work with individuals if we need to.
Well, and you're the expert in that area, and I recognize that. I'm just trying to think, I know there's COBRAs, I suppose, but if they weren't legitimate, that's probably not an option. So
Right.
I'm sympathetic to that end, but I also have been in the experience. I had one employer where we didn't have to show proof, but it is not typically standard practice, so.
So just to follow up a little bit on the conversation, it seems to me that what we're actually doing is spending $16,000 so that if somebody gets kicked off of health insurance, we can say, it wasn't us, they did it. And I would also be willing to think that the people who are doing the audit will not do the reverse to make sure that everyone who possibly can be covered will be covered. And I think that taking this approach lends strength to those people who believe that there are cheaters and scammers out there who are taking advantage of a system, and my health insurance costs too much because Bill's got 4 people on the plan who shouldn't be on the plan. And first of all, I have a hard time believing that that's true, that you're going to find a significant number of people who are deliberately scamming the system to milk us out of all of our health insurance money. But people will think that's true. And I just think that this is a wrong approach to take to see if that problem even actually exists.
So on the other hand, though, if there's no verification process and my sister doesn't have health care, in fact, I'm not sure that, I mean, aren't there, if you have no verification process for your insurance, aren't there just opportunities for people to not play by the rules, really? Not that they're gaming the system, but I mean, when you don't have any verification process for something that's worth thousands of dollars, it's risky.
I've been in 4 school districts now, and every school district I've been at has an internal control process. So this is not unusual. Audits are not unusual of this sort. And having internal controls put in place for this does our due diligence to stakeholders to make sure that we're using their money, appropriately, et cetera. And so, again, this is not unusual, and it's truly accepted by, the audit standard. MMKR auditors would say, yeah, this is something that we would endorse for good financial management and internal control process.
And again, Julie, this is motivated by the fact that our employees are asking for relief in this tax, or this increase that they've seen. This is one small measure that we're trying to assess whether or not there's anything here that can reduce cost. Is that an accurate statement?
Correct, yeah. It's one piece of a big puzzle of healthcare cost, and we want to make sure that we are looking at all different aspects in terms of maintaining costs.
Okay, thank you.
I wonder if we should, is there any timeline? Can we take this, it seems like maybe we should have a study session opportunity. It seems like there's a lot of questions and comments about this.
With the insurance committee weighing in, I'd be a lot more comfortable if they gave this their blessing.
Is there?
I agree.
Can we
Yeah.
take enough time? Would it be harmful to wait for the next meeting?
No, the timeline is we really look at, I think it would still work even if we started it in October, and we met again in September, that would be okay. We try to avoid kind of busy times of the school year and breaks, holidays, because that just is difficult for people to, they're gone and a lot of other stuff going on. But I think October is still okay to make that happen.
So Kim, would we be able to put this on like a study session before the next board meeting?
We have a study session in October.
And that way we can, because it seems like we have lots of questions. And then I think we can all get on.
Sure. So you're suggesting
we can all
let's table
understand it
this agenda item, put it on the October work session agenda, and then place it for possible action at the October business meeting?
Right, I just don't feel like the board's ready to vote on it.
Sure.
I don't feel that way, if you want to know. I'm prepared to support the motion, or support the resolution.
Okay, well then, should I do a motion if we want to table it or not? So do I need a motion or a second if we want to table it?
Yes.
So can I get a motion or a second to table this until the next meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Anderson,
Second.
second by Livingston. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and all opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay, so we'll move it to the next meeting. Thanks, Julie.
It's good to have some names.
Okay. So next on the agenda, we have board communications. Teresa, do you want to start us off?
I attended the Ramsey County League of Local Governments, and our former mayor of Maplewood, Norris Slawick, was the guest of honor, and the event was fairly well attended. I was surprised at the number of school board members there. 4 of them were from Roseville, so 1 left because of a quorum issue, which was interesting. But what I wanted to share about that event was it was good to see her, and she's such an advocate. And there was 2 things that she described what the Met Council is, and it was a good refresher for me because I kind of forgot all the intricacies that they do. But one of the key walkaways was that she described that with their state demographer, that if a child was born today, 21 years later, that child will have a completely different environment to live in than we're currently living in. And the analogy she gave is that there will be such an increase in population that it would be like the entire state of North Dakota would move into the metro. That's how congested we will be. That's the motivation for putting in all of this transit and rail, et cetera. And as a result, the message was to the cities, you need to find places for these people to live. Schools, you need to find space for students to go to school. So it was a kind of unique timing for that. And I thought that was really interesting to hear, because 21 years is, our bonds won't even be paid for. So, I mean, it's a scary, I mean, it's something to really consider, and I thought that was the first point. The other point was, one of the highest number of people riding the rails are homeless. And so, as Christine shared a personal experience earlier, that reality is anticipated to, I'm going to use the word infiltrate, and I don't mean that derogatorily, but it's expected to expand beyond the two major cities and into the burbs, because that's where the rail is going and the transit's going to take them. So it becomes a responsibility that doesn't really have an owner. And again, they talked about how cities and school districts will see that burden, and how do you deal with it. So, you know, we didn't walk away with any answers, just a lot of food for thought, and I really thought it might be a great idea to, as Christine works future with our elected officials, to kind of keep that on the radar. So, interesting meeting. And that's it. Thank you.
I'm excited for the school year to start. Unfortunately, I won't be able to go to the Welcome Back barbecue because I have teacher training myself for my preschool. But my kids are really excited. I'm sure there's many kids in the district that can't wait. Or parents, yes. So it's a really exciting time.
Just 3 quick things. I was invited to, today, to attend the tail end of a teacher training at North High. It's called BAR. It's Building Assets, Reducing Risks. And it was all the 9th grade teachers at North were there. And it was pretty cool, because I think this program is a team building program based on building relationships. So it's all about taking kids at that risky time of 9th grade, when all of a sudden things have to count, right? All of a sudden, you know, we want to catch them before they fail and so on. We've talked about this before. But anyway, it's a cool program. All the teachers were really enthusiastic and on board. It was a great uplifting experience there to be with all those motivated teachers. The second one was that I went to a meeting yesterday with the Commissioner of Education about implicit bias in standardized testing, and it was a good meeting. I was able to make the point that District 622 has eliminated the gap in kindergarten between students of color and white students. And so it's just this terrific point of pride for the district as we look at, you know, how to replicate that with other districts. And I made the point that it's very intentional work with very motivated teachers and so on. So, and then 3, I attended the musical, the summer musical at North High, and it was absolutely fabulous. It was so good. The singing and dance, I mean, unbelievable. And the title of the play, I can't remember the whole title, but it had to do with a spelling bee, and you know how you make a musical out of a spelling bee. I was really a little skeptical, but it was terrific. It was so good. We have such talent in the day. And these are alumni of Tartan and North, and a few adults. So these aren't some current students, but a lot of kids who graduated. So it was really, really good. And kudos to Kevin Barnard, who's a genius, just a terrific guy. So, yeah.
There's a program coming out of Wisconsin called Abilities in Harmony, and it's a summer program to provide opportunities for middle and high school students with special needs and kind of give them a chance to try out show choir. And they teamed up with the North High School show choir to put on a performance the other day, and it was pretty cool. And just wanted to bring that up. So yeah.
All right, thanks, Ben. And I also want to welcome everybody back, welcome all the staff and the families back. Exciting to be starting another school year. The last thing we have is future board dates. We have September 24th, business meeting at 6 p.m. And with that, I would like a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. Moved by Hunt,
Second.
second by Livingston. All in favor say aye. Aye. And all opposed say nay. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, guys.